Assalamu alaikum, I'm Chef Manur and you're watching The Chefs, and today we're going to spice things up within our kitchen. We're going to make a Mexican dish. We're making tortilla wraps with fillings known as enchiladas. Now let's go to our recipe. So we're taking 1 tablespoon of paprika, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of cayenne pepper, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of white pepper, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of oregano and 1 teaspoon of thyme. हमने अपनी सारी spices को mix करके Szechuan seasoning बना लिया and we place it in a jar. You can also make it like this and you can keep it for up to 6 months. Now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of our seasoning. We're also going to add a little bit of olive oil, approximately 1 whole tablespoon, and we're going to mix it. आपने चिकन को minimum 30 minutes marinate करना है. हम लोग 600 grams of chicken use कर रहे हैं. So we're taking little bit of oil, in which we're taking 130 grams of onions. आपने flame high रखनी है. Onions के बाद we're using about 10 grams of garlic, which is 3 cloves. Then we're adding 20 green chilies, which is basically 6 green chilies. We took 100 grams of red jalapenos. हम सारे फ्लेवर्स को मिक्स होने देंगे. फिर इसके अंदर हम लोग ऐड करेंगे 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. हमारी वेजिटेबल्स सॉटे हो गई हैं. Now we'll go to our blender. Now we're going to make our mole sauce. Mole is a traditional Mexican sauce. So we need all our sauté vegetables, about 1 cup of vegetable stock, chicken stock, whatever stock is available, and 140 grams of hot sauce. Our mole sauce is ready. आप consistency इसकी देख सकते हो. We just added around 4 to 5 tablespoons of water. हमने ज़्यादा water नहीं ऐड किया था. आपकी सॉस की कंसिस्टेंसी ये होनी चाहिए. हमने चिकन को फ्राई करेंगे. आपने मेक श्योर करना है कि चिकन सेम साइज़ कट हो ताकि वो इवनली कुक हो जाए. We're actually grilling our chicken. Grilling is a frying method in which we use high heat. It's the same as pan searing, but हमारी cooking time ज़्यादा होता है. 4 to 5 minutes होगा और ऑयल भी थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा होता है than pan searing. Now we're going to blanch our cabbage. So we're adding half teaspoon of salt in some water and we're going to add our cabbage. Now blanching is a boiling method in which you boil the vegetable just for up to 1 to 2 minutes so it gets partially cooked. That's it. हमने इसको just for about 1 minute boiling water में रखा है. You can see it's not fully cooked but slightly tender. Now we're going to make some tomato salsa. For tomato salsa, you need to be very sure of the cutting of vegetables. So we made small cubes of our tomatoes. We took 2 tomatoes, in which we're adding small cubes of onions. We took 2 onions. You can either take 2 small onions or you can take 1 large one. We're adding 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. We're adding around 2 cloves of garlic, 1 tablespoon. Garlic हमारा roughly chopped है. We're adding 3 tablespoons or 3 whole lemon juice. And lastly, we're going to add some of our chopped parsley. You can also add up to 1 tablespoon of tomato paste in this to give it more of a tomato flavor. Now we're going to heat our tortilla breads. You can use a little bit of oil and you just have to gradually and slightly heat it. आपने इसको overheat नहीं करना. We want our bread to be extremely soft while we make the wraps because we're going to reheat it once our wraps are done. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a sauce for our enchiladas. So we took 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise in which we're going to add 4 tablespoons of our mole sauce. So the ratio has to be 2 to 1. The remaining of the mole sauce you can store in a airtight container for up to a month. And I'm going to mix this. Now our sauce is ready. Now we're going to prepare our enchiladas, to which we're going to add roughly 60 grams of chicken in each enchilada. You can break the chicken with your fingers because it's tender, juicy and soft. Now we're going to add our tomato salsa. So 3 teaspoons of salsa in each enchilada is the perfect quantity. Now we're going to add a little bit of corn. We're going to add 1 to 2 jalapenos in each. We're going to add a little bit of green olives. And lastly, our blanched cabbage on the side. You don't need to add a lot of cheese on the inside because we're going to also add cheese on the top when we're grilling them on the pan. So your enchiladas are done. Now we're going to close them. Now we're going to close our enchiladas. You can increase the spice level by adding more mole sauce at this point, but for me, this is the perfect spice. So we're just going to make a crease over here, make it short, and then we're going to use our fingers and we're going to wrap it to completely seal it. Our enchiladas are ready. Now we're just going to slightly toast them. This is basically just to melt the cheese. You're going to allow this to cook on each side for up to 30 seconds to 1 minute. Now you're going to very carefully flip them. You can use a tongue. I prefer using my hands because they're more gentle than a tongue. So this wrap needs a little bit of time. We're going to give it a little bit of time. Now, on the crispy side, which is done, we're going to add a little bit of our cheese. You can use any kind of cheese, Parmesan, mozzarella, cheddar, it's up to you. We're using cheddar cheese. And we're going to add just a few pieces of corn, that's it. And lastly, we're going to add a jalapeno. Now you're going to cut your enchiladas. You have to keep the knife at a diagonal and you have to make sure that you make such a cut. Please make sure your knife is sharp, otherwise